Hi, Commissioner Turner. Just to keep you updated, the mayor is in transit, so we're giving her just a couple moments.
Not a problem. Thank you. I'm assuming you can hear me.
Yes, sir. Loud and clear.
Thank you.
Likewise.
I'm calling the meeting to order, and we're going to start with the invocation led by Pastor Alonzo Mulberry and Pledge of Allegiance led by Commissioner Borum.
Good evening, everyone. Father, we thank you again for your goodness towards us. We thank you for your loving kindness and for the multitude of your tender mercy. Here we are again, Father, in your presence. We need your wisdom and your courage. We need understanding in all that we undertake to do for your glory. We pray for the board in their session this evening, God, that you will bless them continuously with the wisdom that is necessary to move this city forward in great fashion. We give you praise and glory now for all that you're doing. It is in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Could we have the roll call, please, Ms. Krantz?
Certainly. Commissioner Tammy McCaskill is excused for the record. Commissioner Justin Campbell. Commissioner Rufus Borum.
Present.
Commissioner Will Jones.
Present.
Representative Jackson.
Present.
Commissioner Terry Turner.
Here.
Mayor Robbie Correa.
Present.
We have a quorum in the chambers, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes from April 8th, 2024? Do we have a motion to approve?
So move. Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? Thank you. I am going to open up the floor to public comment for any items not on the current agenda. 3 minutes, please, and give your name and address for the record. Is there anybody here for public comment?
I believe
Seeing-
we were going to put Rick Paul at this time.
I'm sorry.
Were we going to put Rick Paul at this time? I
Okay.
had omitted him from reports accidentally.
Okay,
He's over there.
okay. We're gonna close public comment first? Okay.
Madam Mayor, Commissioners, staff members, guests, and people in Zoom land. Good afternoon. I hope you're doing well. We had a very exciting CRA networking event about a month ago, I guess by now. Very good turnout, a total of 37 people there. Fantastic turnout from the city. And what was the most exciting about the turnout was there were at least 3 new business startups that came up and talked to me during the time I was there. And also we had 3 businesses that were looking to relocate to the city of Palatka. So I think that's fantastic when we have a crowd like that, and we have a lot of potential people who want to start businesses and or move their businesses here. People stayed way beyond the deadline because they were having so much fun and just chatting up a storm. It's a really good time for the community to come together, and especially the CRA commissioners to come together and try to encourage those businesses to start and or move and come on into the community. So that was real successful. Hopefully we'll redo that in another couple of months. The date is yet to be determined on that in particular, but very successful event. In front of you, you should have the latest SBDC workshop. This one is with, and I'm going to mess up her name. Is it Rosalind or Rosalind Bryant from the SBA? Wonderful lady. She's been here 35 plus years. I worked with her at Tallahassee Community College in Tallahassee. She came over from Jacksonville. Anyhow, she's going to be doing Access to Capital one-on-one July 23rd from 5:30 to 6:30 at the Chamber of Commerce. So that's a free workshop for everybody who ever had any sort of questions about small business funding. Where do I get money from? Is there such thing as free government grants or not? All those typical sort of questions that we would normally get. With that being said, I think I'll be pretty quick and be under your 3-minute limit, if that's okay
No,
with
no,
you.
go
Are
ahead.
there any questions about the SBDC?
Any questions of anybody? Okay, thank you. No
Have a
questions.
blessed evening.
Okay, thank you. Next, FDOT Reed Street resurfacing landscape median discussion. Mr. Bell?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, commissioners, board members, and staff. Thank you for the opportunity to present these items before you today. We have this item, the FDOT Reed Street resurfacing landscape median discussion. So hopefully you had a chance to take a quick look at that. In your perusal of those documents, you probably see a very nice streetscape that Mr. Griffith mentioned that was done 15 years ago when he was 10 years old in college. But for this item, I'm going to ask Mr. Griffith to expound on it a little bit further because of the history associated with bringing this item in front of you. FDOT is finally in the position where they're moving forward with some of the things that have been talked about many years before, and I will ask Mr. Griffith to go into more detail about that.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. Board members, just some brief history on this. For some time now, Reed Street has been identified as an area for improvement within your redevelopment plan. Approximately 10 plus years ago, we had a staff meeting with Department of Transportation up in Jacksonville, asking how a community like Palatka brings a project like this to fruition. They said, when Reed Street comes up for resurfacing, you need to raise your hand and say, hey, we want to do something more than resurfacing. So this year, DOT put us on notice that Reed Street was coming up for resurfacing. We raised our hand, said, how do we do something a little bit more? And what you have before you is the result of that conversation. Now, in this corridor, there are what we like to call some right-of-way constraints. And I'll do my best to kind of explain it in simple terms. We don't have a lot of space. DOT is not going to want to move curb lines or the stormwater infrastructure because it's cost prohibitive. So that means that the curbs and the sidewalks have to stay where they're at. Now, they can move the travel lanes and move the center line of those lanes, which will free up some space in the middle of the road for landscape medians. However, and Sonny, thank you for having this up, we're still very limited in where we can put landscape medians because of the length of the blocks on Reed Street. So this is the first area. It's known as Area 1, and that is at the foot of Memorial Bridge at the intersection of First Street and Reed Street. It's important to notice that per DOT standards and specifications, we wouldn't be able to put landscaping in here. This would literally just be called a concrete gore or median to keep people from trying to turn left off of First Street onto the bridge. So this is more of a safety improvement than it is a beautification. For that reason, we did want to include it for your consideration, but I just want you to be aware, we would not be permitted to put landscaping in that median. Sunny, if you could advance the slide, please. I guess this one's kind of split. So this is area 2, and it's on the previous page and this page, but generally it's between 2nd Street and 1st Street. This is probably the largest area that we'd be able to gain some landscaping area, as one staff is definitely recommending that you approve the design cost and transfer those funds. We still have an adequate turn lane onto 2nd Street, and it would help to kind of restrict and slow down traffic coming off the bridge and also beautify that corridor. So we did the left side, or what would be the south side of Reed Street in 2012, 2013 with improvements and beautification. Now we'd be doing the median, and then hopefully if you guys follow through with a land swap that the commission does, we'd be able to make some improvements on the north side of Reed Street and improve that gateway into town. Ms. Krantz, if you could. All right, so we did look at the area between 4th and 7th Street, but unfortunately, when DOT gave us an advanced copy of the plans, spatially, there's just no room to do it. You don't end up with any turn lanes. And unless this board and ultimately the city commission wants to pursue limiting cross-traffic opportunities, we're not proposing to include medians from 4th to 6th Street because you just are not left with any turn lanes. Ms. Krantz? Back up. Yep, there you go. The next one is area 4, and this is at 8th Street. And this is kind of what you would have seen at 5th and 6th Street at those blocks. We would have lost all of those cross traffic opportunities. So we wanted to show you this one in 10th Street. These are not signalized intersections. So it's very rare that people actually cross Reed Street all the way at these locations. But it is important to note from an emergency perspective that we'd probably design these in such a way that if somebody had to blow across them in a fire truck, they could. So you wouldn't see a tree right in the middle. They'd have mountable curbs, but everyday traffic would not be permitted to cross north and south at this location. Next, please. And here's the next one, 10th Street. So you've seen the locations. Are there any questions about the locations? And if not, I can move into the cost.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
When you talk about landscaping, type of landscaping you're talking about doing, are you talking about trees?
Yes, sir. And that's yet to be determined. So this project is strictly just for the medians. So DOT is not permitted to come in and put in trees or shrubs or ground covers. It would just be sodded. We would have to work with Mr. Ken Cheeks, the Florida Department of Transportation landscape architect, on programming and funding a separate project for the beautification effort. We've already met with him. That's his job to do projects like this. They have a hard time finding projects like this, so he's excited about doing it. We're working with him currently on the 9th Street corridor or State Road 20 from Reed Street back around to the underpass already. But Commissioner Jones, yes, you'd probably see something similar to what you see on State Road 20, some perennial peanut ground cover, some crepe myrtles, things that are easy to maintain.
Yeah, in those locations, especially around 8th Street, where there's some heavy traffic between 8th and 9th with the tire shop right there. And again, with the absence of any traffic control devices, I think that could be more of a hazard than, I think that'd be a hazard. It could be more hazardous. And I don't really understand why would we want an island to block that area, because people still turn on 8th Street, or I'm seeing this wrong. Yeah.
Yes, sir. And that's an important comment, because there are pros and cons of this. This is what would be typically kind of a boulevard treatment. And what you're doing is you're basically closing in the corridor, and it's going to cause traffic to slow down. And it's also going to beautify the corridor. Those are the pros. Some of the cons are that you're losing some of your grid network functionality. So that's ultimately, you as this board are here to make a funding decision and a beautification project decision. But there are pros and cons to this.
Yeah, and I really would be opposed to that because I have been gridlocked in that area where you get at 9th Street where trucks are trying to go the truck route. And well, not a truck route, but they've been going that 9th Street corridor and traffic is backed up. And I don't know, have you guys noticed around 5 o'clock in Palatka, traffic have been getting pretty bad. And I would not want anything that would impede that traffic in that area. And I don't know if there have been a study on it.
So this would not impede the east-west traffic that you see. All this would do is in an instance where you don't have gridlock traffic and people do use the non-signalized intersections, they wouldn't be able to cross at 10th and 8th Street. Most people who are familiar with our grid network and which intersections have signals know to go to 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 7th, 9th, and 11th, and they avoid the other ones. Because it is hard to get across traffic or to turn across the opposing traffic.
It's also kind of dangerous.
It's already hard to turn east and west, north and south at 8th Street as it is. So I think this has just been another challenge presented, but you asked for opinion and that's what I come up with. And I don't know about any, those are my remarks on that. I would be opposed to that.
So this also includes the design for the corridor lighting, consistent with the A. Philip Randolph Transportation Hub improvements and the St. John's Avenue improvements. DOT is open and amenable to upgrading the lighting that you see along the corridor. Now, our current relationship between the city and DOT is we have an annual lighting maintenance agreement, and the Department of Transportation pays the city a certain amount per fixture for maintenance and energy usage. And those specific lights are under contract with Florida Power and Light. So how this would work is if the CRA was to fund the lighting improvement, which is approximately $34,000 for the design, DOT would work with FP&L on those locations. They'd put together a photometric plan. They would specify the light consistent with our current design that we have in those other 2 locations. And we'd be able to realize that aesthetic improvement as well.
Also to add, with the concern, the name of that church, Bethlehem, a big white church right on Bethel AME Church. I noticed they usually have a lot of funerals at that church. They have a lot of processions coming out of there, and it makes it very tough for in and out traffic. And usually the overflow parking is and it probably will stop because of new owners in the old Winn-Dixie parking lot. So there's a lot of walking traffic. I know you guys are familiar with that over there as well. So that's why I'm advocate for maybe not an island blocking that road, maybe an island a little further east, but blocking it, I would object with that. Y'all, any commission? You familiar with that area?
I'm very
Yes, I'm
familiar with the
familiar with
area.
it.
I think it's actually makes it safer for pedestrians than the current situation because people just fly down Reed. I'm all for whatever traffic calming we can come up with. It's not going to impede traffic. It may slow them down. We already have the Amtrak crossing that slows people down anyway. I just think Reed Street, any improvement to Reed Street and any traffic calming is a bonus to the city. That's my thought.
Well, then how much space are you losing with putting the island there from a standpoint of?
So the only space you're losing, Commissioner Borum, is the turn lane and the ability to cross through those intersections. You're not losing any travel lane. They're moving the travel lane towards the curb. So me giving you a square footage or a linear footage, I don't think that really helps with the decision. I think it's better for me to say, if you could look at this picture right here at 10th Street, you can actually see the turn lane as you're headed westbound, kind of near the control number of 51. So you could see where you're losing that turn lane as you cross 9th Street and you're headed west of 10th Street.
Okay, cool. And to the type of trees in those areas with the tree roots, you generally, you just want to make sure the tree roots are not going out to, dig up asphalt. We want to make sure that we don't have any trees of that nature.
I can assure you that the Department of Transportation is only going to allow us to install something that is, it's not what you're imagining. They're not going to let us put oak trees. They're not going to let you put anything large.
I just want to put it on the record.
Understand.
I want to just make sure it's on the record that we're talking about this, and we're just not saying we're approving something or potentially approve something that could potentially come back and make the board look bad.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, go ahead, Commissioner Turner.
question. If we actually took and did away with some of the turn lanes at some of these streets, wouldn't it be added pressure on the streets that when someone's wanting to turn north or south off of Reed Street, wouldn't that be added pressure on those other intersections for high traffic times?
Right.
It seems to me like it may aid in clogging up the road instead of, I understand that we want it to be pretty, but I don't know we want it to do it if we're going to lose function. So with the amount of traffic that we're getting in Palatka right now, it's hard for me to fathom that we're going to put higher pressure on some of the different streets. That's really all I have.
Commissioner Boyle.
And to add the Commissioner Turner's comment, like I say, I think it will help back up traffic as well as increase traffic on those arterial roads. Not arterial, but the arterial roads. Feeder roads.
And is there any way to push it back so you keep the crossway and also have that median with the facade there?
No, because you have to maintain a certain amount of stacking distance for your turn lanes. So if the board is not agreeable to losing the cross traffic ability, say at 10th and 8th Street, the only one of these medians that you could foreseeably install without, I guess, losing that would be area number 1 at the foot of the bridge, because you still maintain your turn lane on the 2nd Street. And then potentially, the concrete median at the very foot of the bridge. But again, that's only proposed for safety reasons.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Yeah, I did notice that there were some issues during the Blue Crab Festival as it relates to people crossing over Reed at 2nd and 3rd Street. Well, not up the 3rd because you got a light there, but right there at 2nd Street. No, First Street, right there on from First Street, where people were going across the street, which was causing some traffic backups, and people were dodging traffic and different things of that nature. So I could see it maybe there, but further up, I think it might cause additional issues in addition to the additional pressures on other side roads.
Again, and I'm downtown every day. I very rarely see people cross 8th and 10th Street. It's almost suicidal to do that now. You're talking about no light and you want to cut right across with your car. It is really hard to do that. You can take a right or a left, depending which side of the road you're on, and that still won't be a problem. But crossing all the way over is kind of hazardous these days. When you say that with all that traffic, again, people don't generally do that on those 2 streets, those 2 intersections without the lights.
I moved the First Street median reconstruction or
I do.
relocation part of it, but eliminate the idea of putting it in 9%.
I have a question,
Go ahead.
if you will. And forgive my ignorance on this. I'm still trying to figure out my way around. But one of the things that I did notice on 10th and 8th Street is that because of the queuing that occurs of people that are trying to make turns on those streets, that oftentimes it backs up into the traffic lane. And that in and of itself slows down traffic. So I wonder how much of a benefit you get possibly by eliminating the option for people to make those turns on 10th and 8th and have to go straight. That's my only question. So, and again, I'm figuring it myself out around here. So maybe this is or isn't an issue. I don't know.
I agree, but I think part of the problem is those two traffic lights are not sync. So it causes when you're turning, once you bypass and once you're gonna get in that turning lane, turning off of Reed Street onto 9th Street, those lights aren't simultaneous. So they further complicate that traffic setup right there. And I only see it with this particular setup that it's gonna cause some greater issues because those lights are not seen. Right in that area of the 10th Street, no, 9th.
But as to add to the mayor's point, you have railroad tracks and then two lights back to back that starts this bottlenecking. So to have where you cannot exit the traffic left or right, that would be, I think that was going to be a greater backup and bottleneck, as Commissioner Bourne mentioned and Commissioner Turner. That's what we're speaking of. You have train, and then when the train comes, you really in stop. You really have a bottleneck to the bridge. So I don't think we should eliminate those north and south turn lanes.
Well, board members, before you in area 1 and area 2, I mean, that's still a good project for the CRA and the community. You're still beautifying the gateway as you come into the city. We're addressing some of the safety improvements with people that try and turn left and head eastbound from First Street onto Reed Street, even though it's got posted signage saying you're not supposed to do that. So I mean, staff's recommendation is at a minimum to move forward with area 1 and area 2. Now, to affect this, what we need is authorization for a budget transfer. We can facilitate the transfer, but we'd need to move some of the funding that's set aside for St. John's Avenue so that we could then reimburse DOT, probably to a lesser amount, but the total they gave us for everything was $67,000. So when we get back to them and say, hey, we're only going to do 2 of these medians at the foot of the bridge, and then we would, in essence, fund for the construction in next year's budget. So when we came back to you at the next CRA workshop, you'd see both of those refined numbers, what your design cost is going to be this year, as well as what the effect is on the St. John's Avenue transfer, and then what the construction cost will be next year.
Go back to the 2nd Street with William. So where was the one that, see the foot of the bridge there, and where would the second one be?
So it's, gosh, an aerial would be so much better to depict this. So you see the Rogers Oil building on the bottom left-hand side of the screen there. Sonny, do you mind moving your cursor to it?
Google Map Instant View.
Bottom left. That's the outline of the Rogers Oil building. So that's where the turn lane would start.
Okay. You can ask if you like.
If you can pull up just a Google Map Instant View, we can really look at the street level view. If y'all can pull that up, that'd be great. If not, we just see what you have. Because that's not really representative there.
I'm working on it. Let me stop the sharing so Commissioner Turner can see this and not that. I get this to go away. Whoa, no.
Sonny, if you could just zoom in front of Rogers Oil, I can show where the turn lane would be proposed to start.
Keep going.
Pan left, please. Thank you. All right, you see the two white cars in the middle of the street there, Reed Street? That's where the turn lane for Second Street would be maintained. So if you, as you come off the bridge, you'd see a landscape median from where those two white cars are all the way back to approximately where it says Reed Street in front of the US 17 marker directly above the Google logo. So that would be the limits of the landscape area.
And that's area number 1.
That's area 2.
That's
Area
two.
number
Sunny, if you'll pan right.
Can you draw on it right there?
I don't think so.
Okay, no worries.
Okay.
Um,
Area 1 is that hatched area that she has her cursor over right now.
you can do
So they would turn that into a curbed island so people would not be able to drive across it, at least without some discomfort.
Damage.
So that's down at,
That's
River-
one, that's the
I'm-
landscape, the non-landscape.
Yes,
one-
ma'am.
One is the perfect. One is perfect.
Not very true.
Just looking at it now with this area, I just think zone 1 and zone 2 are just so close together. Like, I don't know.
But again, for traffic coming, when you come, people flying off that bridge, don't stop at the lights. Maybe this would slow people down. It is really dangerous, even pulling out here when the light changes, because so many people are flying. The visual does make people slow down. And we're used to it on Krill. I mean, we all drive Krill and we see those islands, and I think everybody survives driving. You look at it that way. It's done all over the place.
I stick to what, I said, I don't see how the island is gonna stop the traffic from the speed of the traffic. That's not gonna stop the speed of the traffic. It's the direction that they could go. And I have seen where two cars get in the middle lane, one meaning turn left, one meaning turn right. If you go back to that second area, Sonny, because it has the turn markers in the middle of the street. No, same. Yes, please. Between the two white cars.
The two, yeah, the second
Yeah.
island there.
So if you look, what you have already is a left turn arrow and look like a right turn arrow right there. Right?
Yes, and that's the area we're talking about,
Yeah,
creating
so
a
it looks-
landscape
it's
median.
conflicted. But like Commissioner Campbell, what do it have to be? I don't know. I mean, it is close if you look at the proximity. We need to, I don't know. What you think?
Is it between the two white vehicles right there?
Yes, but it's gonna be from where it says Reed Street by the crosswalk down to the two white cars. Is that correct? So
Yes,
we'll
sir.
lose the turn lane, is what you said.
No, you still maintain the turn lane going into First Street. You'll have room for 2 or 3 cars, and you'll still maintain a turn lane coming off the bridge going on to Second Street. What you'll lose is that kind of no man's land where you've got both of those turn lanes intersecting. So if anything, it will get rid of the conflict where you got somebody getting in the turn lane with opposing traffic getting in the same turn lane.
Which is dangerous.
Yeah, I think if we clarify the turn lane, that will actually help with that situation if you really look at it the way it is. The turn symbols make it tough on the driver. Now, if we talk about for pedestrians, we got a crosswalk right up in the front. I mean, right at the light. So I don't.
You have the pedestrian bridge too underneath the.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
right
you're
nearby.
right. So I would like to see that first traffic calming device created. And could we make a decision later on a second and a third as we progress? I mean, because the truth is, I think losing that turn lane or shortening it is gonna create more of a problem. You said
Congestion.
only 3 cars would be able to get possibly in that turn lane at one time. But when you have a jam coming off that bridge, like I've seen, trying to make that left turn on Second Street, maybe to go to Velchalk, because you can't turn on First Street. So you're gonna have more traffic trying to make that turn. That would be my case that I would fight. I wouldn't want to have an island there that's gonna stop cars pretty much back where it says 17. My thoughts.
Question, with this project, is it a all or nothing, or can we implement, like Commissioner Jones mentioning, if we did the one and then maybe potentially do another later? Because I think once we put this in, it's there, it'll be hard to roll it back. I mean, it'll cost, from a cost standpoint, I think it'll be a lot more to roll it back if we see that it causes issues. If we do the one first and then see how that works, but then again, I don't know from how are they putting everything in from a resource standpoint, having to come back out and do another one in the second phase. What's your thoughts?
So we only have this one opportunity to treat this like an a la carte. We have to give the department an answer so that they can incorporate it into the construction project that they plan to let at the beginning of next year.
When is that due?
They wanted an answer before today, sir. We were waiting on the CRA meeting to be scheduled to get them an answer.
That's fine. And this is one of my concerns. We're 6 people that have to make a decision. Something like this, I would love to hear how others in the community think of this prior to making a decision of this magnitude. I would love to hear the citizens that have to drive these streets beyond us. But given that opportunity is not there, I would be interested in knowing if anyone in here has a thought with regards to.
Yeah, I have a thought.
Cheryl Roach, 312 Dodge Street. I think it all makes sense. What is your goal? Is your goal to allow people to continue speeding through downtown Palatka and not slowing down? That is what we all should hope for, that people will not just speed through. Maybe I do understand, between 8th and 10th, but I agree with the mayor that people, that's dangerous. It would be better if you don't. And if you don't have the patience to wait because the train is going by and you have to turn, you see people do that constantly. You're not bettering yourself. You're not bettering your destination time in any capacity. So again, if you compare this to the bridge situation, this is something that the state is handing you. This is something that the state is saying we will do this, and it's is it a cost share? Is that how it's broken down? Is it a cost share?
No, we're funding the median.
Funding the median, but it still will be on top of an FDOT project that's happening. So I think it's important to control the traffic on Reed Streets. It's not a highway. It shouldn't just be a highway, and when you live in an urban area, people should understand that when you get into a downtown area, you do need to pay attention to turn lanes. You do need to pay attention to speed limits. You do need to pay attention to pedestrians. And I think the businesses would love for people to go a little slower on Reed Street, personally. It's to me a win-win situation. Thank you. Do I have to fill out a card?
Sure, come on up, Ms. Metnick.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Commissioner Turner.
I would like to ask Jonathan, I didn't hear anything in his presentation that said that, excuse me, that this was a traffic calming design whatsoever. It's just a beautification design between those two streets. So I don't think it's designed to calm the traffic or slow anybody down. It's just basically going to put a median in there where you can't turn left or right coming off or left coming off the bridge until you get to 2nd Street. And you can't turn into where the Roser Oil building is now because there's a median there, but which I don't have an issue with an opinion one way or the other on that, but I don't believe there's any traffic calming designed in this at all that I heard.
Man, can we hear?
Jonathan, 1 second, let Jonathan answer Commissioner Turner's, I guess it's a question.
So, Commissioner Turner, there actually is an element of traffic calming associated with this. When you take a road like this that has what's generally referred to as a suicide lane and 11 or 12-foot travel lanes, and you start to shrink those down, what it does is it forces the driver to slow down ever so slightly. And when you add landscaping and vertical elements and those that geometry kind of comes in on you, you probably notice this when you drive into a downtown setting and the buildings get closer to the road and they get higher, we naturally slow down. So there is an element of traffic calming associated with this, but it's very limited because dimensionally we can't fit a lot of medians in here and maintain the grid traffic pattern. I did want to also note that there has been community input on this at multiple stages. The first is actually in the development of the CRA plan by the fact that it being incorporated in there and going through those community workshops. And we're just going through this process right now with the Northeast Florida Regional Planning Council, and Reed Street and the appearance of Reed Street was referenced a couple of times. There is a workshop scheduled on July 10th. The Florida Department of Transportation will be coming here. We're hosting them in this very building, and they're going to be talking about this project. If there's some unreadiness with the board, while it's not the desire of the Department of Transportation that we don't give them an answer, you could wait. You could attend that meeting, see what the public has to say about the proposed concepts. The worst thing that happens is the DOT says, well, you didn't make an answer, and we moved on with the project. Just wanted to give you another option in response to your comments, Commissioner Campbell.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Annie Swetlake, 511 North 3rd Street. Anything that could help calm Reed Street would be greatly appreciated. I've been to the police department many times because of the log trucks that come in from the bridge onto Reed Street and do not stop for the red light. My neighbor's friend lost her life because of it there at 3rd or 2nd Street. This is years ago. Denise Townsend's friend went through the green light, but I don't know if it was a truck or a car, didn't stop. And she lost her life that way. I have been to the police department 3 or 4 times. I wrote down numbers of the trucks, and nothing ever happened. And I always tell people that come visit me, do not assume if you have a green light that you're safe. Really, really watch out. And I try to avoid Reed Street as much as I can. So anything that can make it safer would be greatly appreciated by us. Thank you.
Mr. Paul.
Hello again. I've sat on that corner before, right out here, and if you don't wait at least 3 seconds, you're going to get T-boned. I can't tell you how many times, and a lot of times it is the big semi trucks. They just blow through the red lights. If you pull out more than 3 seconds after it turns green, you're history. I can tell you also at the Chamber of Commerce intersection at 11th Street, I see that happen constantly also. So it's all about speed going through town, any possible way to slow people down. I'm all for, and in fact, you've heard me even mention radar trap to try to slow people down and get some money.
We don't want to be known for that.
Yeah, well, it would help the coffers, but anything to slow people down and traffic calming I'm definitely for. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You guys do realize that's Highway 17. That is a highway, I think, state road. Someone said it wasn't, but it is. So it's not like St. John's Avenue.
It goes through a city. It goes through a city.
Right.
And that does occur.
It does. And I'm gonna say this for the last time. I agree with you guys. However, if, and we can ask Assistant Chief this, it's just a little experience that I have and I want to share. If you shorten that lane, cars that, you got 2 lanes basically in the turn lane. You shorten the turn lane with the amount of traffic that's coming off the bridge and you have someone that's trying to turn, you actually back that lane up. So what happens is you get the 3 cars in the turn lane. What happens to the other cars that's trying to get in the turn lane? It backs up on the travel lane. And could you explain, help me explain, Chief? For example, you getting what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah,
That's what's gonna happen. So those cars that's coming fast, that caused the rear end. What eventually would happen.
I mean, yes, sir. I mean, it can. But I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with the study that Jonathan's providing right now. So, I mean, I really don't know what to say about it. I see what you're saying that, yeah, we have that quite often and in several of our areas throughout town, not just on 17, but in various areas where we have the suicide turn lanes, where both lanes, there's one real good that's right there by, where Tractor Supply and Bailey's and then across the street, or it's right there on St. John's and across the street, we have where Planet Fitness is. I mean, we have some decent crashes over there as a result of that, but I do see what you're saying. It could, but we have a lot of complaints that come off of that bridge.
And here's another thing I'm gonna say, and I'm in. So what you have now is, if in fact you don't have the trees or shrubbery or that island to prevent a driver from having an escape route, defensive driving, where a car stops because they decide they're gonna turn left, okay? So if that happens without a median there, a car could do this evasive move and maybe go to the left if that left lane is available. If there's a median there, that option is gone. Did anybody follow that? And they're gonna either just rear in that car or get rear-ended if they make an abrupt stop. That's the other potential that you'll have. And again, I think that those are some of the hazards. I'm gonna let go.
And two, I think that to add to that, I mean, we know that the traffic count has gone up. I think it's well over 62,000 per day. Was it? Then y'all get the FDOT study. Then I know they ran
Still in the 30s, sir.
30s.
Yes, sir.
Is it?
Mhm.
Okay. But I heard higher numbers than that. But traffic stacking. You're thinking about traffic stacking when you try to get across Reed on certain days. Period. If you're not going at the crosswalk, if you're trying to get across there, it's almost impossible. And so I know for a fact that's over 30,000, but at the same time, we in the light synchronization as well. So I think a lot of things need to be taken into account, and I don't know if that's already been done, but I do think there may need to be a little bit more work as it relates to that with the safety concerns that we're trying to solve. So if all of those things have been taken into account, we just have to make whatever decision we need to make. And I want to make the best decision that's going to be for the safety of the people.
Mayor, could I add something?
Sure.
I just realized based upon a comment that I may not have been heard correctly. So when I referenced 3 stacking distance, that's for the First Street turn lane for North First Street. There's actually a stacking distance for 8 vehicles at Second Street. They're maintaining the actual designed turn lane. All they're doing is putting a landscape median where the turn lane is depicted to go into the Rozier oil site mid-block. So I'm not trying to sway you one way or the other. I heard the reference. I wanted to make it clear that the design is not for 2 to 3 at Second Street. It still maintains the existing configuration of 8. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, Mr. Bell.
I would like to share some of the feedback that I did receive, and I don't know if this is the answer or not, what we're talking about here, but some of the feedback that I received in having residents come and share their thoughts was this idea around slowing down traffic on Reed Street. This idea that we're not committed to the Reed Street as a highway, and ways that we can slow down traffic in order to get people, instead of using it as a thoroughfare, to stop and enjoy some of what Palatka is, as opposed to just trying to get from one end to the other. Again, I don't know that this is necessarily the solution, but I got the sentiment that people were wanting us to try to do something to slow down the process. And yet, the last thing I would say too is that there are things that communities across the country are doing to temporarily identify some of that infrastructure in the roadway. It's not permanent changes, but they're temporary changes to see whether or not it makes sense to provide that infrastructure in the roadway. Things like large potters, things like striping changes that are not physical, that you cannot change, but it gives you a sense of whether it would work. So that's an option.
Thank you. Anybody else have any other comments?
Well, just one last one, Mayor. But you got to think about the bridge being, and then again, you're on the highway. So you got to think about the bridge. You're coming down a hill, and I think the speed limit is about 40.
It's actually 40.
So, yeah, but
In
then
theory.
there's not but 5-mile-per-hour difference between by the time you get from off the bridge into the short section of the 35 miles per hour. So you're still 35 almost up to the light. So that's not much of a slowdown. So there's got to be some other things done here in order to start to slow the people down on the bridge before they get to the point from seeing that they got to slow down a little bit more for the light. And so I think it's more work need to be done as it relates to that, because when we're talking about people speeding, 30, you got 40 to 35, 5 miles per hour difference. You're not going to see much of a slowdown. That's just the speed limit.
It is, but you do have that, well, unless you get a green light, you do have the light right at second. That in theory, again, is supposed to slow you down. And people just breeze through it though, and I've seen them.
Not only that, but
I'm sorry, what?
Can I say one more thing?
Quickly, because of, please.
Is there maybe a way to slow down traffic already on the bridge? Like
I don't know how you do.
those, I don't know how they are called, but like tiny little bumpers or so that.
Oh, speed bumps.
Something like that, because indeed, and no one drives 40, 45 on the bridge. No one does, including me a lot of times, because you go with the speed of traffic. They go 60, 65, they go really fast a lot of times. So if we could find something that the bridge that prepares people that they have to slow down, because they are not prepared. They're flying over the bridge and that's it. And then they suddenly have to slow speed. So I think it should start on the bridge. Thank you.
Is there any other comments, discussion? Okay, how would we like to proceed? You have made a motion.
I made a motion.
Could you reiterate that motion, please, for us?
I move to approve the first median, First Street, and see if there's an effect. Also, maybe implement what the city manager said about maybe having some clear markings, because those are conflicting markings that's out there currently, to prepare people for that turn lane that's coming down and see how that works. So we are implementing one thing, and we just have a different idea for the second one versus the median, constructing the median there.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion, a second. All in favor? Opposition? Nay. You were nay, you were nay too? Okay.
What was Commissioner Turner?
I haven't heard. Commissioner Turner, were you a yay or a nay?
I'm a nay.
Okay.
No.
So here we are. We're back at it. Does anybody else want to entertain another motion?
Motion failed 3-3.
No, it's 3-3.
Madam Mayor,
Yes,
Yeah.
Commissioner Turner.
It fell 3-2.
3-3. 3-3.
I think that part of my issue was I didn't understand all of Commissioner Jones's motion. So if, would you please try to re-express your motion, Commissioner Jones?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
You've
Oh,
already voted though.
what
Go
happened?
ahead, Ms. Jackson.
Oh, go ahead, Ms. Jaffe. You go ahead and do it.
No, just, I guess from my understanding, we are voting on, Mr. Turner, area 2, foot of the bridge, buffer area, that's foot of the bridge from my notes is area 2.
One.
It's area 1 at the foot of the bridge. Well, it's,
And 2 is a little further down.
and 2 is a little further down, and then buffer, maybe area 2. So if area 1 is at the foot of the bridge, do a temporary buffer for area 2 and see how that works.
Markings, right?
Well, you're talking about bollards and markets, but doesn't this impact, again, we're back to FDOT. And we have to give them an answer about funding for design. And I don't know that we can go back once we make a decision, it is what it is sort of thing. We can't go back to them and say, wait a minute, we want more.
We would have to request funding a separate project. It wouldn't be done under the construction project that they have planned. So there's no guarantee that we'd be successful in that effort or when we'd be able to get it done.
So let me ask for clarity. You said in a few days or upcoming weeks that they're gonna be here talking about this
July 10th.
specific. If they're gonna be here, why are they requesting that we give them an answer prior to them coming into town to be able to listen to?
They're not holding the workshop specific to the request that's in front of you tonight. They're holding the workshop on the total project, which is the resurfacing of State Road 15 and US 17, which extends past the railroad tracks. Now, if you move forward with this tonight, I'm pretty sure this would be included in their presentation so they could get some public feedback.
Gotcha, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Commissioner. Turner.
did I understand correctly that we do not have an amount for from DOT for what it would cost to just do the first and second phase, which is basically from the foot of the bridge to Second Street? So what are we're just going to give them an open check or a not to exceed, or was there any money included in Mr. Jones's or Commissioner Jones's motion, or?
There was no money. Yeah.
I think those are some of my concerns at the moment.
Go ahead, Mr. Griffith.
Yeah, so maybe it would be helpful if we could just tackle the lighting request first. I haven't heard any opposition to the lighting. The cost for the design of the lighting improvements is approximately $34,000. And that would be for the entire corridor. And again, it's just to replace the aging, outdated lighting that we have from the foot of the bridge to the railroad tracks. The cost of the design for the medians was another $33,000 or $34,000.
So as Mr. Turner said, I'm sorry, would that be to design all of the medians you
Yes, sir.
propose, or just for the one? So if we say the one, would that be a cost breakout for that?
Yes, sir. I assume that would be significantly less. They did not provide us a breakdown of design per median.
Commissioner Turner, were you saying something?
No, ma'am, not yet.
Okay, so at this point, if somebody wanted to entertain a motion to fund the design fee for corridor lighting only, which is approximately 33,089. Do we have a motion for that?
So move. Second. Did somebody say so move?
Who's making the motion? I can't.
I make a motion. So move.
Okay. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition to the lighting? Okay, thank you. We got that done. Now we're back to the medians.
So I think Commissioner Turner asked me to clarify. To clarify, I said the first zone, which is the foot of the bridge, create that median there. Omit any other medians at this time. However, the idea of putting or clarifying the traffic control, that markings that are in the turn lane on Second Street, redo those with stripes to let motorists know that there's a turn lane where it begins and where it ends. That would clarify and also help with the traffic calming. So included with the lights, that one, I'm saying let's approve that one median at the foot.
And that was a motion made and a motion. that
No, he
was-
asked for clarity
Yeah, I
and
know,
I
I
gave it to
know.
him, so however that goes.
Right, so we had a motion, it failed because
It
it was
failed, yeah.
3-3. So we would need a completely new
New
motion
motion.
that has not already been voted upon.
Yeah, but he asked for clarity
Right,
and that's what I
and thank you,
provided.
Thank you.
Commissioner Jones, if you will remake that motion approving the first island at the bottom of the bridge or phase one, I will vote for it with you this time.
Is that acceptable, Ms. West?
You make.
That's,
You-
wait a minute, let's stop.
I want to make sure because legal did make
Yeah.
a statement.
Yes,
that it has to
that's
be
what I'm
a new
asking.
Motion for something that was not considered before, so there needs to be some kind of amendment to the motion that was made before. So if that, I mean.
Correct, that's what I was trying to make a point of.
Clearly someone else can make the motion.
The same person
No,
can't
that's
make
not-
the motion.
No, that's not,
you're
that's
missing
not.
the point.
yeah.
It cannot be the same motion that was voted down.
It's gonna be a different motion.
Right, she's gonna make it with the markers. I didn't say.
And with the markers.
So I make a motion for us to approve area number 1, which is the foot of the bridge, and area number 2 with markers.
Second.
A motion to second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay.
Motion passed 5-2. I mean, sorry, 4-2. My apologies.
We'll communicate the request to the Department of Transportation.
Thank you.
Did we put any kind of a monetary value on this, or are we just going to let them reach back out to us with how much they're going to need for engineering?
I would think we'd have to wait for them to come back to us with what that amount is for that one median at the base of the bridge.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. On to the next item, adopt resolution authorizing execution of an interlocal agreement between the Community Redevelopment Agency and the city of Palatka for services the city shall provide CRA. Mr. Bell.
Mayor, Commission, board members. Obviously, there is an agreement that exists between the CRA and the city. You as fiduciaries of the TIF and the TIF districts collect the funds, identify the projects. It is the responsibility of the city administration, the code enforcement, and the public works to execute that. This agreement essentially codifies that relationship, defines how it operates and what costs are associated with it from the CRA to the city. So we're asking that you approve the agreement between the CRA and the city.
Any questions of Mr. Bell?
I have some questions.
Go ahead. Commissioner Jones.
I would like to give another commissioner first if they have a question. So on subsection 3.5, it says code enforcement. The city shall provide the services of city code enforcement department, which shall include but not limited to additional inspection of properties within the CRA districts over and above the current level of inspection provided to the city. So tell me what that looked like.
So we have to clarify when we provide additional services to CRA areas for code enforcement. It cannot be the normal level of service that we provide to the entire city. What you're essentially paying for as a CRA is for those additional services that are specific to the CRA area.
And maybe giving an example might help.
It will.
Okay. Which
Sure. So we actually recently went through this exercise with code enforcement where they spent weekends alternating between the various TIF districts. You may recall that Mr. Cutright gave a presentation. One Saturday, they would tackle one district. They basically broke up the TIF district into 4 quarters, and they would tackle that on the weekend. So it wasn't attributable to their regular work time. And a presentation was made before the CRA on exactly what they were able to observe during those walkthroughs. And they did observe additional code violations that were then funneled back to code enforcement for the regular proceedings to the special magistrate.
Great. Nothing in here speaks to the compensation. So that'll be compensated out of the CRA funds solely for those extra duty times.
yes,
Right. So if any overtime, that is not paid for by the city funds, but out of general funds, but out of
CRA
fund.
correct.
Okay. That's one. And the other question was the 3.7 with public PIO, but you answered that pretty much with the pay thing. That would be out of CRA funds,
Correct.
Especially special events or something like that. Not just that's it. That was it. Those are the questions I had.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? No, does somebody want to make a motion?
Second.
Motion is second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Commissioner Turner?
No, I'm not in opposition.
Okay, thank you. On to C, recommendation of award building improvement grant, March 2024 cycle.
Yes.
Go ahead, Mr. Bell.
Thank you. So one of the projects programs that have been developed by the CRA for cost sharing is the building improvement grant program, and that all of you are well aware of. And as part of this program, we issue a call for those property owners throughout the district to submit in order to receive assistance to address the issues of blight and bring the city from blight to bright. And so as part of that, you have before you an opportunity to approve or disapprove applications for funding. So it is the staff's recommendation for those 2 applications that come before you that you not approve those applications. So those applications do go through a review process by a body that takes a look at those applications and then reviews them, determines whether or not they're appropriate, and scores them. Those applications that are before you now went through that process. It appears, though, that they did not follow the spirit of what we're attempting to do through the CRA to improve blighted areas. And based on that, which staff can give you additional information about if so needed, we're asking that you not approve these. But there is an opportunity for us, we believe, to go back to the review committee, one, to make sure that only those that address the spirit make it to the committee. And once, if and when they do make it to the committee, that they take into consideration the full breadth of the spirit of what you're attempting to do with the building improvement program.
Any questions of Mr. Bell? Commissioner Turner?
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Commissioner Turner, go ahead.
I think it would be a dangerous precedent if we started approving big program or improvement, building improvement grants that have not been approved by staff and is against the staff's recommendation that don't meet the criteria for the building improvement grant. So I will not be able to vote for giving those grants.
I agree, and we also ask people to volunteer on this committee to assess the viability of these projects meeting the CRA plan and the intent of that. And again, I think we need to respect that and respect their integrity as well as that of staff.
Make a comment.
Go
Well,
ahead.
Again, I think going forward with situations like that, I don't think those type things should even make the agenda and be presented, like you said. So if it's not something that the committee approved and staff is not recommending it, and I just think it shouldn't come before any board.
Anybody else have any additional statements, comments? Not, do we have a motion in some direction?
Make a motion that we do not. I'll go with staff's recommendation.
Motion to deny.
Motion to deny.
Second.
A motion, a second, all in favor? Aye. Any opposition? Thank you. And the grant cycle has reopened and is open till September, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, we have nothing additionally on the agenda. Does anybody have something they want to bring before the board at this time? Okay. See a smile, so seeing nothing, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Yes, motion to adjourn and second.